In this problem, we need to solve and write the solution using interval notation of this problem here. Well, what type of problem do I have here? If you notice, I have one inequality here, but I have another one over here. So this is a compound inequality, and what's the degree? Well, the highest exponent on an x is a 1, so it's a linear compound inequality. Now, there are two different ways to solve this problem. The longer way is when I write my two separate inequalities. I have this one, and then I have this one. And then we solve them each independently of each other, and then we put them back together again. But there is a shorter method of doing this, and that is shown here. So to solve a compound inequality of the form that I have, you must isolate the variable in the middle by performing operations to all three parts of the inequality. So that's what we're going to do here. So I need to get x by itself. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is subtract 1. And notice I do it to the left-hand side, the middle, and the right-hand side. And remember, adding and subtracting numbers to an inequality doesn't change the inequality symbols. So I have -5 minus 1 is -6, is less than or equal to 2x, which is less than 7 minus 1 is 6. So now how do I get x all by itself? I'm going to have to divide all three parts by 2. And since 2 is a positive number, it doesn't change any of the inequality symbols. The only time that happens is when you multiply or divide the inequality by a negative number. So I'm going to get -6 divided by 2 is -3, is less than or equal to x, is less than 6 divided by 2 is 3. So there is my solution to the inequality, but now I'm going to have to write it in interval notation. And the easiest thing to do is to graph it and then write the interval notation. The two numbers I need are -3 and +3. Now, a compound inequality that looks like this, where the numbers go from least to greatest, and you have less than or equal signs, I consider this a between statement. All this statement says is x lies in between -3 and +3. So I have to shade everything in between -3 and +3. What do I put on the endpoint at -3? Since it has the equals, you're going to use a square bracket. And on the +3, no equals, you'll use a parentheses. So what is my interval notation? Square bracket -3, comma, +3 parentheses.